it was a bit of a bittersweet, week for us. We should have, I'll just say it, we should have beaten Army. And I think that's a game all of us would like to have back. I will give that Army team credit for probably being the first team all year, and maybe the only team all year, that played harder than us. And they were tougher than us. And that's never an okay reason to lose a basketball game, not for our team. And I just feel that the enormity of the game got to us a little bit. In the words of my dear husband, he used to say, we spit the bit. That was one of his favorite expressions. And I think that happened a little bit. I think it definitely got to us. We weren't as focused as we needed to be, and we just let them kind of steamroll us a little bit. But and it hurt. It really did hurt. I was happy to see us come back and perform fairly well against a very athletic Norfolk State team that represents a lot of things that are a bit of a nightmare for us, because they play 5 out, they drive, they just do nothing but drive. But I thought we showed a lot of really good discipline, not fouling them, and just were able to come out with the W on the road, and just nice to be home now. We have a huge game ahead of us on Sunday. That's going to be a very, very tough game. Long Beach State is currently undefeated. And partly why they're undefeated is because they now have the former Mountain West Player of the Year playing for them. Maddie Udi transferred from Fresno to Long Beach State. And so we have to deal with Maddie Udi again.
Any worry about looking past Regis a little bit at that game against Long Beach from your team?
Well, sure. I mean, any game this time of year you worry about. They have finals looming over their heads. They're very much preoccupied by having to be ready for finals, and we're going to talk only about Regis, and then we'll talk about Long Beach State. But I just know that's going to be a big challenge for us. I think that Long Beach State team's really good. So we're coaches are already thinking about it, I'll tell you, this time of year especially, you're mostly just thinking about getting better and what do you have to do to get better. And we have Riley Snyder played really well against Norfolk State, the best she's played, so far this year. So hopefully she's kind of, starting to come into form. We are experimenting a little bit with lineups, trying, our depth and really our best talents at the guard spot, and so we're starting to play 4 guards. Haley Jones doing a great job on the boards and really doing a good job holding down that post position, but but we're thin. We're really thin. We didn't have Nikki McDonald for the Norfolk State game, and we're uncertain at this point, what her status is. She kind of tweaked her knee in the Army game, so we've got to figure out a system that's going to work with bunch of 5'8" kids on the floor.
And you talk about getting better this time of year being your main priority, but you look at where you guys have been the last few years in terms of the non-conference, and if you have a good week here, you have a chance to really go into Mountain West play with a very good record and opportunity to have one of your better non-conference schedules since I believe you've been here. How big of a deal is that? Is that something that weighs in, or is it just about, crescendoing towards the Mountain West season?
Well, even part of that is scheduling, and part of it is that we're better. We are better because we're starting so many seniors, and you hope that your seniors are going to be ready at the beginning of the year more so than a younger team would be. But yes, we've thought about that, and we've thought about how nice that would be. It would be the first time that we have ever gone into conference play with a winning record. So I do credit the seniors in the fact that they just get it. They understand what we have to do to be successful, and they have they just are much more I won't say invested. I just think they're more aware of what our game is, what it takes. The thing we're kicking ourselves about is we beat ourselves against Army, and that's like the cardinal sin. It's something the seniors really understand. Don't beat yourself. If the other guy's better, okay, but we don't want to beat ourselves, and we've worked hard on that. So yes, I mean we're pretty excited about this last stretch. We've got 2 on the road right after finals are over and right before Christmas, and anytime you got college students and particularly academy kids finishing finals and getting ready for Christmas break, you worry about, hello, come here, let's go. So I'm somewhat concerned about those 2 road games, and those are UTEP's good. That's going to be a very, very tough one, and Dixie's solid, and I don't care who you play them on the road, as UCLA found out, losing to Kent State, and there's been a lot of upsets, and you just this time of year you just never know.
Have you mentioned the transfer from Fresno going to Long Beach? Have you so far seen a lot of player movement? Like you look at your opponent's roster and see a few transfers. I'm curious your kind of perspective on kind of the free agency that's gone on in college athletics that you're fortunately or unfortunately not allowed to be a part of.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Transfers, 5th year, 6 years even, players, they're everywhere. They're on every roster, and we're dealing with it. And Army was much like us. They just had a lot of good, solid seniors, and their seniors carried the day for them in that game. But everybody else, nope, it's everywhere. Transfers, 5th years, they're everywhere. It's just something we have to deal with. Maddie's actually, I think, doing a 5th year because of getting the COVID year back and all that. She was just able to get another year, and she'd already graduated from Fresno, so she went to say, hey, I want to go to the beach for a year. So she went to Long Beach State. She's a really good player.
Coach, you want to find him?
Yeah. No, just laps. That's what happens when you're late.
How many laps are you talking?
Line them up.
You got Regis this week, and then I believe it's next week, UCCS, correct?
Yes, on Wednesday.
What do you think that does for just the basketball, college women's basketball here in our state, when you schedule teams like that for the advancement, I guess, for the game?
I think all of us Colorado teams, there's a certain amount of camaraderie there. Our kids know each other, and the coaches know each other, and we like to see the other Colorado teams succeed, and we like to help each other out when we can. And in the case of both these games, Regis and UCCS, it involved, we had a need, we had a situation come up that we had to resolve late in the scheduling process, and both of these schools they were willing to step up and help us out. And, they wanted the experience of playing us, and I appreciate that. So, and I think especially with UCCS, being the sort of the in-town rival, that's always big. I mean, they come in, smoke coming out of their ears, and we'll have our hands full.
That's kind of my question, because D2 athletes always want to see how they compare against D1 athletes. Sure. And they always, as you said, they have smoke coming out of their ears. Is there any trepidation when you schedule teams like that? Like, we might not win either way. This might not be a win-win for us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there is, but I just, anybody that knows me when it comes to scheduling, I just don't. I don't do the whole ego pride thing, and I've never scheduled for my next contract. I've never scheduled for my next job or anything else ever in my career. I've just scheduled for what makes the most sense for our players, and the situation that we're in at the time, and what can we do? I mean, that's we went to Norfolk because Brianna Autry Thompson's from Suffolk, right next door, and we'd never been home for her. So that's why we made that trip. And we'll be doing the same thing next year, trying to get home for our seniors then, Camry and Nikki. So we just do what, we think makes sense. And it's not, I'm not saying it's the smart thing to do. There's a lot of coaches that are much more strategic than me and probably have better win-loss records because of it. But we like playing who we play, and we do it for good reasons and the right reasons, I like to think.
What was the reason that Omaha had to back out?
They had something going on in their facility, and so they asked us to play another date, and we couldn't do it. And so they were the ones we actually were supposed to go out there last year only because we were looking for games that were within driving distance. And we realized that as a backup position, if we couldn't get on a plane, we could possibly drive to Omaha. And so they were originally on the schedule last year, and then that got canceled. I don't know if it was us or them that had some sort of a COVID thing, so it got canceled. So we offered to play them again this year. They backed out again, and so we said, sorry, we tried.
And what's the health update? I know you mentioned Nikki McDonald. Anybody else? I know early in the season, Riley was coming back from a back injury, I think you said, and somebody else was sick or had COVID issues or.
Well, Camry had went through a COVID quarantine, and we've had the usual, just what everybody else has had, creeping crud, I call it, the colds but for the most part, we're pretty healthy. Hopefully Nikki's is nothing, but we just want to make sure that it's nothing. So we don't think it's anything major, but it could be potentially cartilage or, something like that. So we're just getting the MRI and making sure before we, because, we want her healthy for conference. So that's what we're thinking about.
And the stat that jumped out on the Army stat sheet was the turnovers,
Yeah.
And by the older players too. What kind of turnovers were those? And
Bad
how
ones.
do you fix?
Costly ones.
I mean, were they unforced for the most part, or were they forced in a way that they should have known how to deal with?
A lot of them were unforced, and they came during a really critical time. We had some great momentum going, and it's I was surprised that that's what cost us, and the free throw line, they shot 27 free throws. Some of those earned, some of them I didn't think were earned, but it was just not a good performance on our part. We got behind early. We did that routine, which we're getting a little tired of, and we talked a lot about not having to constantly use our momentum just to get even again. The games that we have won, we've used our momentum to get ahead and not to catch up. So we got behind early. We caught them in the second quarter, went ahead. We were ahead at the half. Thought we looked pretty good in the third quarter, and then we just turned the ball over too much and gave them too many easy looks. And then they had some seniors hit some big shots down the stretch. They had two threes from deep, like by their big girl. She hit two big threes, and then they had another again right about the time we were ready to, make a burst. Their other senior, Fallon, got us on a breakaway and hit a pull-up jump shot, and so I give them a lot of credit. I give those seniors a lot of credit for getting it done.